Hey YouTube, Joyboy here. So, look, you guys know, it's time, right? It's time. Joyboy Theories here on YouTube has been preparing for this moment here right now. We are in Wano, and Oda is very close to dropping some juicy bombs, maybe even a straight up reveal about who Joyboy is and what that means. So as your resident Joyboy Theories, it would be pretty awful if I didn't make a theory about Joyboy right now. So it's time. Strap yourselves in. I don't think this is going to be too long, but of course when I say that it's going to be really long, we'll get to the point eventually, and then at the end, hopefully you are satisfied. But I have a thought. Look, when you ask people who Joyboy is, it is a non-controversial question. Typically. Not always, but typically. Because I think the most straightforward, the most obvious, the most accepted, and the most likely answer to the question of who Joyboy is Luffy, obviously. But just because it is all of these things does not mean that it will happen. That's one thing that I think that you learned as you follow One Piece weekly for a long time, is that, yeah, there's a straightforward, there's an easy, there's an obvious solution, which makes it the most likely solution. But Oda can always invest time and brain power to come up with something even crazier. And so when it comes to something like Joyboy, do you think that Oda has not spent the last 15 years thinking about exactly how he wanted to pursue that story? Do you think that it is likely that it is just going to be as anybody could possibly imagine it, where you have a reveal of Joyboy who does some things and then it's just Luffy, right? And that's just the answer. There's no twists and turns, there's no drama, it's just that. Seems unlikely. Oda is a master of manipulation, and I think that Oda has already left some breadcrumbs that we can follow to sort of get a sense about how confusing it might be. And so in the recent chapter of One Piece, chapter 1036, something was alluded to that we had been speculating already, which is that Joyboy is a title. There is a person that currently exists that has the potential in some way to become Joyboy, whatever that means. So the actual conversation was between King and Kaido, where King believes that Kaido will become Joyboy, or is Joyboy. And Kaido himself seems to be not so certain about that, but maybe. But you know, from this, it leads to questions, right? Like, what does King know about Joyboy? And why does he think that Kaido is Joyboy? Why does he think that? There's got to be some reason. There's something to latch onto. Here's the exact wording from King's flashback. There's Kaido, and he says, "Are you still under that belief, King? You think I'm Joyboy. Is the world I'm creating really the one you wished for?" And King says, "Legends are legends, that is all. No, I seek nothing from you anymore. My life belongs to you. Just continue to be the strongest." What I gather from this is that initially, King expected Kaido to be Joyboy. I seek nothing from you anymore. Are you still under that belief? And from the chapter before the last, we can see when King is just a kid and is in Punk Hazard, Kaido frees him. And King says, "Can you change the world we live in?" And Kaido says, "I'm the only one who can." It also gives me the impression that maybe Kaido believed himself to be Joyboy. He's the only one who can change the world. That was his belief. I guess this was somewhere around 30 years before the start of the story. Additionally, there was this mysterious line that we got from Kaido regarding Luffy. After he thought that he had defeated Luffy, he said, "So you aren't Joyboy either. You couldn't be Joyboy either." One way in which this could be interpreted is that Kaido attempted to be Joyboy, but failed. Either way, from this flashback with King when King was a kid, you do get a bit of a sense of how Kaido has changed. This Kaido that is talking to King comes across as far more confident and optimistic almost than the Kaido that we see today. This doesn't have to be true. There's other ways of looking at this, and we obviously need more, but that impression exists. And so this brings us back to the question, what about Kaido is special? Why did he maybe believe himself to be Joy Boy? Or why did King think that he was going to be Joy Boy? And the answer that I come to initially is it's possible that the dragon fruit that Kaido possesses relates in some way to the legend of Joy Boy. Kaido believes that he is the only one who can change the world. Kaido is the only person that we know of, especially at the time of this flashback, who had a dragon devil fruit. There's other strong people, but he is the only dragon. And it's interesting, when he finally meets another dragon, he tells Momonosuke that this world only needs one. Big Mom said this, on the day rocks fell into ruin at God Valley, I gave you that legendary model of the fish fruit. You owe me for life, Kaido. This fruit is being hyped up as important. It's a devil fruit that is so important that Big Mom thinks Kaido owes her for life. Kaido may in fact be referring to this devil fruit when he tells King that I'm the only person who can change the world. It's possible that Kaido believes there's some information that we don't know yet that suggests that somebody with the dragon devil fruit or a dragon is the only person capable of changing the world. And remember, Kaido didn't find this fruit anywhere. This was likely a fruit that was hidden away, protected, a treasure in God Valley. I think from this it can be assumed that it isn't just Kaido and Big Mom that thinks that this fruit is important. The celestial dragons thought so as well. And that is without mentioning the fact that the world government is trying to make more of these fruits. That was the experimentation, that was the research Vegapunk was conducting. They took Kaido, they used his lineage factor in order to try and recreate that fruit. That's the only fruit that we know of that they have tried to duplicate, the only one. And then you have to ask yourself some other questions. Why do the celestial dragons call themselves celestial dragons, space dragons? The celestial dragons, if you recall from Clover's speech, were originally the 20 kings. Kings of 20 various kingdoms spread across a grand line. They weren't known as celestial dragons, but once whatever happened in the Void Century and they won, they collectively decided to label themselves as dragons, space dragons. Why did they decide upon that name? Why is their symbol the hoof of a dragon? Why do celestial dragons consider themselves to not be human? Or why do they pretend? What is the importance of dragons? So let's go full conspiracy theory mode. I believe that the previous rulers, the ancient rulers, the natural rulers of the blue planet, the world of One Piece, in the distant past, were dragons. The reason why the celestial dragons decided to call themselves celestial dragons, why they took that name, is because it made sense to the people of the world at that time, because they had always been ruled by dragons. The 20 kingdoms defeated and killed the dragon rulers of the past, and then claimed their title as rulers of the world. Look, without any additional information here or arguments, do you guys see why this intuitively makes sense just as a concept to me? Right? Kaido says that I'm the only person who can change the world. King thinks that Kaido might be Joy Boy. There's something about Kaido which might indicate that he is this person. What is special about Kaido? It's his devil fruit. And his devil fruit is potentially a relic of the past, essentially the fruit which made one king of the world, because dragons had been kings of the world. I'm going to make something up, but I want you to bear with me here because I just want to create an idea to sort of fill the void, because a lot of the things that we're speculating here, right, there is so much left that Oda probably hasn't even teased, or there's not enough evidence from the story to really be certain about anything. So it'll be a new idea. So I just want to throw something in here to sort of connect and complete some of the thoughts here. But it makes sense to me for the Lunarians King's race to have been, you know, like priest guardians of the dragons of the world during and maybe before the Void Century. And something like this would explain why King would see a lot of value in Kaido being a dragon. If you recall back to Skypiea, both the Skypieans and the Shandians had a priest vibe to them. They were religious. The Shandians they both actually worshipped gods. The Shandians' god was a serpent creature. They obviously weren't worshipping a dragon, but here we have a dragon in the story with Momonosuke that people often confuse as an eel. So it kind of makes you wonder, is with the Shandians worshipping the giant snake, Nola, was that a relic of their past worshipping dragons? Dragons were their gods. And another similar example of this is actually in Wano. We have the mountain gods. So it's just another example of people potentially worshipping or revering creatures as gods, which might be foreshadowing a concept. It's also interesting the ties between the Skypieans and the people of Wano, both protecting poneglyphs, both worshipping creatures. But we're not done yet. There's more that I want to talk about. When you reread Fishman Island and some of the inspirations for that arc and the names of the characters, this theory becomes even more interesting. So obviously Orihime was the mother of Shirahoshi. Orihime died before the story, the current timeline in the story. But we see her flashbacks prevalent through that arc, and she's an important character in that arc. Well, Orohime's name is inspired from a Japanese myth. We meet her in the story of Urashima Taro. Urashima visits a place called the Dragon Palace beneath the sea, also known as Ryugu Palace. There he meets Princess Orihime, the daughter of the dragon god, Ryujin. If you don't know, this legend also relates to the legend of the Tamate Bako. But basically, Orihime is the daughter of the dragon god of the sea, the lord ruler of the sea. Orihime is the daughter of a dragon. And in Fishman Island, the actual palace's name is Ryugu Palace, which is a direct reference to Ryugu Palace from this legend, the palace of the dragon. And it is not only a reference in name alone, because when you look at Ryugu Palace from the story of One Piece, you see a giant dragon statue wrapped around it. A dragon statue that is very similar to the dragon statue which was relatively recently highlighted in Wano. There's another dragon statue in Onigashima. We'll get back to this in a moment. But of course, with folklore, there are many different variations of the story, so you can never be certain how Oda might be inspired. But as I said, there's a lot of variations of these myths. But another one which I feel is worthy of bringing up is the story of the Lost Fishhook, which involves once again the dragon god of the sea, Ryugu Palace, as well as Princess Toyotama. Another name of Princess Toyotama is Orihime, the daughter of the dragon god. There's a lot of similarities between this story and the one with the Tamate Bako, but the main difference is that the hero ventures down into the underworld in the dragon god's palace. He marries Princess Toyotama, or Orihime, and they have children. And it's actually plot relevant that their children are not humans. Toyotama, or Orihime, was actually a shapeshifter and had bamboozled the hero into believing that she was a human when she was the daughter of the dragon god. And so their child was a dragon. So in the story of One Piece, Orihime is married to King Neptune, and through their line is this legend of Poseidon, Poseidon being the god of the sea in Greek. But the power of Poseidon exists within this bloodline, reborn from time to time, skipping generations. And I'm speculating that the power of Poseidon is the power of the dragon. I'm essentially speculating that Shirahoshi is a dragon, and that is why the Sea Kings claim her as their rightful ruler, their king. Shirahoshi either is a dragon or is the reincarnation of the spirit of the dragon. Look, I understand how crazy this all seems, but we have so much more story left, and it would not surprise me if we got some crazy reveal like this. I mean, I could give you guys an explanation, a way for this to work. All Oda really needs to do is reveal it. But if I say anything, the chance of me being wrong is very, very high, because Oda can do whatever he wants to. But there's something here. There's a reason why dragons, references to them, symbolism related to them, is present in so many different areas of the story. If dragons existed in the distant past, essentially the gods or kings, the natural kings, or maybe unnatural, of this world, were they shapeshifters? Did their bloodlines intermingle with various tribes, such as the fishmen, maybe also with humans? You can get to crazy speculations, such as the initial D is reference to the bloodlines of dragons. D equals dragon. You can also talk about how it's mentioned that the Ds always bring storms with them. Dragon, a character in the story, also has that same thing occur. And dragons in the story of One Piece actually create storms. They say that D is the natural enemy of God. It's sort of interpreted as D is the natural enemy of the celestial dragons, because maybe the Ds are supposed to be the celestial dragons, and the celestial dragons have taken their place. And I always want to bring up, and it remains a mystery that I am desperate to know the answer to, but there was an egg on Gold D. Roger's ship, which is still to this day very mysterious. But the speculations are endless, right? Maybe dragons existed, they were gods, immortal gods of the past, but they were killed, and their spirits did something weird. Maybe they are reincarnated in certain bloodlines, in certain people. Or these people aren't actually dragons, but they possess the spirit of a dragon. Or could this have something to do with devil fruits? Were the spirits of these dragons captured and imprisoned within fruits? I know we're getting off the walls, totally insane, crazy, but I just want to say things to get your mind thinking. I know for a while that a lot of people wanted there to be basically one Poseidon, right? Shirahoshi is Poseidon, and so the other ancient weapons, Uranus and Pluton is a ship, Uranus is something else, like a devil fruit or something, and so every power will be different. But over time I found myself gravitating to the idea that all three ancient weapons were all people. And you guys obviously know that I love the theory that Momonosuke or Kaido or his dragon ability or something like that is related to an ancient weapon. That basically, as Momonosuke can control Zunisha, the giant elephant, Zunisha basically is the world's largest ship, with the ability to literally crush islands underfoot or with the swing of a trunk. And Zunisha appears to be subservient to Momonosuke or Momonosuke's power. But I don't want to get into all the details of this because I know that there's a lot of arguments here, and it requires a lot of words to be totally persuasive. But the point is I like the idea that there are three, basically Poseidons, dragons with differing domains, gods of the past that are reborn. And when you say things like this, which are off the wall crazy, I understand, it makes panels like this all the more interesting. We've seen this basically twice in the story. This was a Roger Odin flashback, but they're underwater and they hear a voice. Only they hear a voice, and it's of the Sea Kings talking. And they say, "The birthing is at hand. Our sovereign will soon be born, and another in a distant sea. The whales are delighted in anticipation of the day the two sovereigns shall meet again. We have been waiting for so long. It is almost here, and surely all will go well this time." They're talking about two sovereigns. One is obviously Poseidon, but they speak of another. They can't wait for the two sovereigns to meet. It's like there's another Shirahoshi, right? That's what the conversation almost implies. One is their king, but there's another similar to her, born in a distant sea, you would presume, with dominion over different people or creatures, or simply has different powers, but is still considered a sovereign, almost like a god-like entity. And that makes the conversation about the dragon statues really interesting, right? There's a dragon statue around Ryugu Palace, the dragon god of the sea's palace in Fishman Island, but there's another dragon statue that we find in Wano, and this is highlighted and pointed out to us that the dragon statue used to be at the entrance of Onigashima. Marco also says that Onigashima once went by a different name. What is the reveal here? What is Oda waiting for? What is he planning for this? Was this once an island of a dragon, a palace of a dragon? Going back to Kaido, I believe that there's reason why he might believe himself to be special, or for King to believe that he might be special. It could be because he is the last dragon, or so they think, right? All the dragons are dead, so all you have left is the dragon devil fruit. Well, when Kaido meets Momonosuke as a dragon, he says, the world doesn't need two dragons. As though maybe Momonosuke is encroaching on what makes Kaido special, the role he envisions for himself. Maybe Kaido sees him as a threat because he thinks that he is destined to be the king of the world, as it is right for a dragon. And it's interesting, right? Yamato hands Momonosuke Oden's diary, Oden's journal. Momonosuke reads a bit of it, and he says this. This is the only thing that he reveals. It would seem that I truly must not die. I'm just going to throw this out here, guys. Does Oden maybe know? Does the journal maybe hint? Suspicion or knowledge that Joy Boy is supposed to be a dragon? Is Momonosuke becoming convinced that he is Joy Boy, or at least prefers that outcome, because if Kaido becomes king, then that is not the world that anybody would want to live in. I find it very interesting that after Momonosuke reads the journal, the next thing that he badly wants to do is he wants to become an adult. He wants to become a big dragon. There's lots of like the why sort of skipped over, and we fill in as fans because, oh, Momonosuke wants to contribute, he wants to be older, he wants to do something, he needs to be an adult. But the last thing before he becomes or asked to become an adult is he reads the journal and realizes, I must not die, which is curious. But you know, I'm sure that you guys are all kind of, your brain is fried at this point. Some of you are very annoyed because of all my rambling and baseless speculations, right? Others are just like, I don't even know what to think anymore, right? But this is interesting. But I started this video with an idea in mind of like the craziest speculation of them all. And I basically said, right, that everyone believes that Luffy is Joy Boy. It doesn't make sense for Momonosuke to be Joy Boy. And so you can absolutely speculate that if you want to. To an extent, I'm kind of suggesting it, right? By suggesting that Kaido is special. King thinks that he is Joy Boy, maybe because he is a dragon. Maybe Joy Boy is supposed to be a dragon. Well, Kaido is not going to be Joy Boy. The other dragon that we have here is Momonosuke. Is JB saying that Momo is Joy Boy? Well, Momonosuke being Joy Boy would be like if Usopp became the king of the pirates. You know, Usopp always claiming things, but ultimately he's riding the coattails of Luffy, because Luffy is the person who's going to change the world. And I believe above anything that I've speculated here, that Joy Boy is supposed to change the world. The person at the forefront of this will be Luffy. Therefore, with a lot of confidence, I believe that Luffy is Joy Boy, right? If Luffy is Joy Boy, it would make sense to me for Oda to make it very convoluted and confusing and exciting with twists and turns and reveals, and make it basically a really badass story. He's had 15 years to come up with a version of Joy Boy that will blow everybody's minds. And he's had a stupid amount of time to set it up and foreshadow it so that it can be as crazy as possible, if he wants it to be. Not that I think that there's anything wrong with Luffy simply being the chosen one and a regular old human who's destined to one day do something very cool. But anyway, if you want this to be blow your mind, absolutely stupid levels of insanity, that requires some details about Joy Boy or who Joy Boy is to be kind of out there. But I talk about this often. One of Oda's favorite techniques, storytelling techniques that he loves to use, which is pretty much an automatic hit every time, is that he foreshadows something obvious that will eventually become the truth. And then he makes it very complicated and convoluted, long stretches, people forget details, and basically this thought that you initially had, which was right, is forgotten. And then Oda comes back to it later. You were right all along, but it's even better than you expected. But we're also speculating that Joy Boy may be a dragon. So I am in fact speculating that Luffy is a dragon. Bet you didn't see that one coming. I think that, if I recall correctly, guys, this scene happened. It was the biggest thing of the damn chapter, and I didn't say a word because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to say. Luffy is thrown off of Onigashima. Kaido comments, well, you couldn't be Joy Boy either. He falls into the sea, right? We're all thinking, how is he going to get back up? What's going to happen? And what ultimately happens is underwater, Luffy's voice reaches Momonosuke and others. It is a scene that is very similar to the powers demonstrated by the ancient weapon Poseidon, Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi is underwater. She freaks out and she calls the Sea Kings. The Sea Kings hear her voice. They call it her plea for help. That is like exactly what happened with Luffy as he is falling, drowning underwater. The people around him hear its voice, but it's not the Sea Kings that hear him. It's other people. Momonosuke, but also Law's crew on their submarine. I am in fact speculating that Luffy possesses a power similar to Shirahoshi. Shirahoshi is the natural-born king of the Sea Kings. When she is in danger, they come to her aid, which is strikingly similar to how a lot of people feel about Luffy. When Luffy is in danger, his friends, other humans, people, come to help him. And now we have a scene with him underwater, and they can hear his voice. I actually don't want to articulate this in words because it is so absurd. But you understand what I'm saying. It is very obvious that Luffy's powers, whatever they may be, are awakening. And it'll be very curious to see what they actually are. I have hardly even mentioned the fact that Luffy's father's name is Dragon, and also seems to have power over the weather. I will just leave that hanging for you to think about. Come to whatever conclusion satisfies you. And I want to make this very clear. I am not speculating that Luffy was the egg on Goldie Roger's ship. That is not speculating that. Nope. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much what I had to say today. I understand that this is going to be a meme level worthy theory. I'm probably going to be memed for years about this, which I still don't want to articulate in words what I'm actually saying, right? Because it's so absurd, but there's a train of logic here. I mean, I've said enough things to get your brain going. There's connections here. I will probably be wrong, but it's interesting nonetheless. But as always, guys, I'm curious as to what you guys think. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike the video if you disliked the video, subscribe if you want to be notified for my future content, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.